Thank you, everyone, for listening to Soul Talk with host Jeremy McDonald, the author of Peace Be Still. You can check out more about our shows or about Jeremy at soultalkradio.org and jeremymcdonald.net. And now for our show.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening here on to Soul Talk on Sunday morning. I'm pretty excited about my guest that's coming on today, calling in from the Washington State area. She's calling in early in the morning to be on Soul Talk, so we really appreciate her. And then her friend, Leah, I believe the name slipped my mind. I apologize for that, and she can correct me if that's incorrect. So
no, you're right.
We're going to be. She's calling in from the Arizona area, and a very beautiful area. So let's talk a little bit about Hilary. She has a show, a book out called Surrealistic Trials: Surviving My Life After Death, and it's a very interesting story. I'm just going to read the brief description here, so everybody kind of knows on what subject our page we're on. So at age 18, Hilary died of a drug overdose, leaving her in a comatose. In a comatose, rigid body with no hope of recovery, according to medical experts. In this comatose state, Hilary traveled to the so-called other side, and part of her soul refused to come back. Her higher self chose instead to remain with her guardian angel Mary, in that place where peace and simplicity reign. Eventually regaining consciousness, she was steadfastly sure of herself and her direction. She had never given up in life before, and she had refused to give up now. She is also recognized that on some level she was profoundly different now. So it sounds like an incredible journey over to the other side, Hilary, and thank you both for being on the show this morning, and welcome to Soul Talk. So,
thank you.
Thank you,
It was
Jeremy.
an incredible journey. I'd like to say that Leah is indeed my friend, but she also put the book together. That part of my brain that does organizational work doesn't work. That part, it seems to be gone. And so I sent Leah chunks and pieces and parts and babbles of writing, and Leah organized it into a book. So she is my partner and some soulmate, and without her the book would not be. So I thank her for that, and I asked her to come on here with me this morning. It was indeed a journey.
Well, that's beautiful, and I see. Actually, I do see that orchestrated by Leah right here at the bottom of the book. So I actually really want to jump on something just a little bit off, and I want to know where this cover came from. This artwork is absolutely amazing, and when I look at this piece on the front, you just get drawn into it. And I know the people listening, you really see that. You'll see it on the pictures of the show coming up here soon on your screen. But can you describe, was that channeled, or is that something that came in a vision, or is it just the artwork was just done by the
publisher came up with that cover. It's a painting done by an artist who lives in California, and she put it on there. I had a different cover, but, we went with this one, and I like it. I think it does draw people in, but I had something completely different in mind.
Well, when I Google searched the book, I did find another cover out there, and I think that's one of the reasons why it really made me ask, because I didn't know if this is something new that came in, but it was the publisher that did. Okay. It does draw you in. So I just thought I'd bring that up, because I really enjoy that art piece. So let's kind of dive in here a little bit. What there's a lot of content here to cover, and I just picked out a few subjects to kind of go over here because there's a tremendous amount to kind of describe. But can you kind of describe your experience with existing in more than one reality at one time? Because that's a subject that not a lot of people experience, obviously.
Right. I was telling Leah last night that when I started to try and come up with a verbal description of that, what came to me first, because I think in music for some reason, was the old Peter, Paul, and Mary song, but I may as well try and catch the wind. It's pretty hard to explain, but I think that reality, for me, realities are not separate. When I was in the coma, I was lying in the hospital bed, obviously. I was paralyzed from the neck down, and that was my body. I was unaware, my body was unaware of what was going on. But when I looked up, I saw a little entity that looked a lot like me, sort of flying around on top and telling me what was going on. So I was up there above me, I was all around me, and I was watching myself get worked on. You know, I watched them save my life. I watched a lot of things that were going on. But my body was not, I was not aware of them on that body level. So I live with a feeling of not quite belonging here. Right. Even now, since then, I don't feel like I quite have my feet on the ground, so to speak. I feel sometimes like I'm not living my real life, and I live in multiple realities. I guess, the way that people might be able to understand it best would be meditation. Do you meditate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That place that you go when you meditate, I could call another reality.
Right.
We could call it another reality. For me, instead of, I do meditate sometimes as well, but it's like walking around meditating, like a walking meditation. So can you describe the meditative state? What it feels like for you? Maybe find a common ground.
Well, for me, I actually get. That actually makes a lot of sense because I sit in a meditative state. I sit on my couch and I get so deep in that I feel like the center of everything. But I see, like in my mind's eye, I see like several different parts of me. And they're just thoughts or consciousness, and I describe them as realms or other places where I exist. And so. And that's in my deepest state of meditation. And so when I come out of that for a certain amount of time, I do exist where I feel that feeling of still feeling those aspects with me in my mind's eye. But it's not eventually when I get kind of wrapped up in what I would call the physical world, that goes away until I go back and get in the meditative state. And,
That's perfect. That's a great description. And the only difference then between people who meditate and experience things similar to what you're describing is that I'm there all the time.
Oh, wow.
In those other places, those other realms, or that's how I walk around. And, some people look at me and I might be called a little spacey, or somebody told me recently that, I'm thought of as an odd duck. Because I don't pay attention to a lot of things. I don't like to chat because I'm busy monitoring the different things that are going on inside my head and trying to keep track of things. So I get lost a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that, Leah?
I think we could add, it's like living a lucid dream. It's happening, you're cognizant of part of it, you're not sure what part. Things are not clear, cognitively speaking. We're not putting a label on it or saying this is what this reality is. It does blend like the front cover. That in itself is saying to me, here's all these realities. Here's Mother Earth reaching up to the universe, and this is how I would describe it. my realities and the same. You know, it's just I'm just here in the moment. The next moment I'm over here.
Yeah.
And so staying out of your own way.
Right. I have trouble with that. Always getting in my own way. But that there are no lines between the realities. It's like I live in a walking state of meditation with different realities going on, and I can pick and choose which ones I attend to. And I think most of us could do that if we wanted to.
Yeah, and I do. Yeah, I agree with that because I've been in states where, when I was just before we came on the show, where I was describing, where I had spoke on Arizona, I was I put all my stuff in storage, and I lived in a van for 4 months basically during that time frame, traveling around the country, and my mind was so quiet and so still, wrapped up in everything that I would literally see the blending of, if I just moved my hand, I would see trails behind it. I would see everything, and if I looked into a mirror, I would see blending of the body into everything. It was almost like it wasn't there. And so it's
that's perfect. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, we can live in that state. It's just like this picture. I think that's why it grabs me so much because if we really just quiet our mind, exactly what you're saying. It seems as though your mind is just a lot quieter than most of ours because you're in that state all the time. So they call you an odd duck because they don't understand it.
No, they don't.
That's
they
right.
really don't. They really don't. And an odd duck. I had when I was working in the field of mental health. I ended up in court a lot with people, and one of the judges said, you are the weirdest person I have ever met. And I took that as the highest compliment. I said, thank you. And that's, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But, I mostly try to choose to be in a fairly appropriate reality. I'd rather, I enjoy being by myself a lot with my dog. Alfie and I spend 95% of our time alone. And that's because I don't have to talk. And I think talking is highly overrated. Like you're saying, you were in a van, things were quiet, peaceful. I think for the most part, idle chatter certainly is something I avoid. Talking on this level, I enjoy. But everyday small talk, I don't do well. I don't want to do well. I don't think it's important, and I choose not to be involved in that. So there are lots of reasons that I could be an odd duck. I hide in music a lot. I hide in my music.
I relate.
Do you really?
I have my two. Matter of fact, when I do my show, my two dogs are sitting here and laying next to me, and I can always tell when. I have a Rottweiler and a Shepherd, and the Shepherd's staring at me while she's sleeping. She opens her eyes.
Nice.
I spend more time with them because they're quiet. Their energy's quiet. They're
right.
So,
their energy understands everything.
Yeah.
And there are people that I've come across certainly in my life who have that kind of energy, but I could probably count them on my fingers, on one hand. And with those people, I don't have to talk. And I don't with my daughter. My daughter was staying here, living in the house with us for a time. And after my husband passed, it was just she and I here. And we would go days without saying anything. Not because, only because there was nothing to say. And when we talked, it was about realities, or it was about spirituality. It was about nature. It was about the things that matter, that are worth sharing, that are worth talking about. Nature to me is so important. It's my connection to all the other realities. But I need to be outside, alone, and then I can go anywhere from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, and the nature is quiet, and it's very grounding. We get wrapped up. That's one thing. A lot of people are asking me, well, how do you get to that still space? I think, well, you have to be a part of everything. You have to get out and touch the trees and have taken breath and be with the blades of grass and that stuff.
That's right.
Yes.
And the connection of that, and then so, we I've never put down anything. There's nothing wrong with my cell phone, but if it becomes your only thing, then you get too wrapped up in the technology, and so it's. And I've even had experiences where I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where the trees almost take on faces in front of you, and because your mind is so quiet with them, and you almost feel like they're talking. Right. They are. They are. So it's really a good place. So yeah, I'm totally there with you. That's those are good feelings. There's a park here in St. Pete I think you would really like called Felipe Park, and it's very much into the Tocoboga Indians built the Indian mounds. The mound builders built mounds there, and I'll just go there and sit. I'll take the dogs out there and just relax, and it's right on the northern part of the Tampa Bay. So quite extraordinary. So
that sounds nice. I lived in Idaho for over 20 years, and Idaho is the part where I lived it's a big park. There are 2 people per square mile. 2.
Oh wow.
And those 2, I guarantee you, are unique. There's something special about each and every one of them. And when I walked outside for all those years, it was everything. It's quiet. It's peaceful. You look around and you see the mountains, and you can mosey over to the lake, and it's just so peaceful. It's like the world used to be before it got so destroyed with housing projects and overpopulation and stuff. Too much stuff.
Yeah, I've only been to Coeur d'Alene up in that area. I've never been to anything else other than in Idaho Falls, but beautiful area. So
Coeur d'Alene's nice. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. I lived in a very, very remote area.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
So would you consider this experience a near-death experience, or because I know you describe it differently, but would you?
I do not. Somebody asked me to write an article about my quote-unquote near-death experience, and I spent a week being uncomfortable trying to write, and then I got into semantics, and I thought, I read and I researched, and I've decided that I don't believe in a near-death experience. I don't think there's such a thing. I mean, why is it not called an out-of-body experience? Why is it not called a coma experience? Why is it not called a dissociative experience? There are 4 different types of near-death experiences. It goes on and on. All this research, one thing leads to another, and I get all wrapped up in it. And so I reject that term, because I think that term is a box. I think it's a label, and I've never been one that accepts labels. So to describe my experience, I mean, I will say that I went to the other side. I'm comfortable with that. But when somebody's clinically dead, I don't understand why that's near death. Anyway, I won't go into all the semantics of it. I think the experience that I had was different than most, is because I was 18 years old. I hadn't read or heard or studied much about near-death experiences, and I had no idea what to expect. I had no expectations. Therefore, now now people read, this is what you're supposed to see: a white light and the tunnel and people who have died, and there's this list. I didn't have a list. Because I didn't have a list, there couldn't be any kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy based on preconceived notions. And I think when we go in so wide open that God meets us where we're comfortable. And for me, that again goes back to nature. In this case, it was water, which is one of my favorite elements. I don't think God likes boxes. God, the universe, call it whatever you want. I think God is as good a word as any. But I think because I didn't have any preconceived ideas, that I went where we could meet on level ground. And I experienced what for me was, I guess we could call it heaven. I don't know, these are words. And being a word person, I have trouble even using them sometimes verbally. I do much better when I write. But because I didn't have the ideas, I was on a raft. It was a homemade raft. I was floating on this calm, incredibly calm blue ocean. I guess the Mediterranean. I don't know. It was just incredible, and the floating was happening without my feet actually touching anything. It was more like a butterfly hovering over something, barely touching. It was the most peaceful, serene experience I have ever had and ever expect to have until the time that I go back. It was all about nature. It was all about connecting with nature. And there weren't any tunnels, and there just wasn't that stuff.
Yeah.
So, if that makes it different, then I guess that's why. Does that make sense?
I feel you. I feel you on that. I'm with you then, because I've interviewed a lot of people that have gone through experiences, and not everybody has that sense of tunnel. And one lady actually, she died at 27, and she had an experience. Basically, she just felt she was submerged with everything. And
right.
I never saw a light. I never saw anything. I just saw this.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's based on your experience.
I think it's based on I think it's based on where where your essence goes. And mine, of course, would go to nature, because that's where I'm at my best. That's where I'm at my happiest.
Yeah. That's a great description, and I'm with you on the labels. I actually this is a kind of a real quick Reader's Digest quick story. My mother died in 2012, and I had what they would coin as a shared death experience, but the only thing I can describe it as is that I felt, but it was nothing by their checklist. It was just the day after her memorial. I felt like she stepped in my body, and she said, "This is what heaven feels like." And the only thing I can describe is to feel like I was the ocean, but the ocean had no limits.
Right.
And I was very aware of my body, but it wasn't there. And so the only reason why I even learned about the shared death experience is because a month later I went to this conference to see a guy I didn't even know who he was, and I'm sure all of you guys have heard his name is Dr. Moody. And so I didn't know who he was until...
He's the one that labeled, yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And so I mean, he helped me in a lot of sense, but when there was another doctor that was there, and she looked at me and she goes, "Oh, you didn't have a shared death experience." And I'm like, I don't know what I had. I just know it was amazing.
Right.
It's
People
hard
get
to
stuck on labels. So stuck on labels.
And then we miss the experience. So, and I think that's so very
exactly.
That's a beautiful story. And I think what we gain from this, especially with your story, and a lot of others, is that, and wouldn't you agree that people are afraid of death? That death is the beginning, or a transition, or whatever you want to refer to it as. So
I think people are afraid of. A lot of people are very afraid of death.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel blessed that I've been able to go through my life without fear. Once you're dead, what is there left to be afraid of?
Yeah.
I think death is for a lot of people the biggest fear. And I just came back not knowing, not having any fear. I should. I mean, there's lots of times I should have been afraid, but I wasn't, and I'm not. I know that as long as I am doing what the universe tells me to do, that I'm going to be fine. My needs are going to be met. I'm going to be okay. People I love are going to be okay. And it's called faith. I think it's that simple. It's faith.
Yeah.
It's not any kind of specific religion thing. I don't, like I said, the first line in my book is I'm not religious. I'm not. I believe in absolutely everything. I like that.
That's going to lead us up to our next kind of topic here, is that most people, whether religious or not, are confused when we say the term "we are not our body." And I say that to people all the time, and they're so wrapped up in their own physical that they get confused by that term as well. So could you elaborate on, for the people out there, so they could better understand what we mean by "we are not our body"?
I can try. Well, we live in a body. We live in our bodies. We are not. I mean, we're not stuck in our bodies. Some people are. For example, my body is considered disabled. I can't walk very well. My body is sort of broken. I'm not able to sometimes to perform even the simple tasks of everyday living and thinking. Later in the afternoon, my cognition goes south. I can't figure out how to get myself out of a paper bag some days. And the body itself is broken, and the brain is broken, but I'm not, because I am my spirit and my soul, whatever you want to call it. I could choose to live in this broken body and hobble around or be in a wheelchair or I have lots of choices if I chose to live in my body, but I don't. I choose to live outside the body and do what I can do physically and mentally. I can't walk. I can ride a recumbent tricycle. I can kayak. I look at the things that my body can do rather than the things that my body cannot do. And, I think people get really wrapped up in body image to the point where, people die of anorexia. Buster Crabbe's daughter, I read just yesterday, died of anorexia.
Wow.
And I didn't know that. I thought, my gosh, talk about body image. But my body is screwed up. I'm not. Because my spirit is good. My soul is good. It's all intact. And if I stutter or I stumble, that's okay. Because that's my brain that's doing that. It's not my spirit.
Right. And
the brain is part of the body, and help me out here.
Well, I understand what you're talking about. I actually, interesting enough, we have somewhat of a similar story. I had a really bad. I actually had a bad drug addiction most of my 20s, and I would refer to it as a sex addiction as well, where I would jump from one thing to the next, one party to the next, all that kind of stuff, and it was actually all about my body image. It was about the fact that if I did these things, I could have more fun, and the more attractive of the person I was with, or the more whatever they had that made me feel better about myself, then I felt good. The more money I made, I felt better about myself. All this other kind of stuff, and so it's, then you just get centralized in this physical, and so then when you realize that it took, I call it the cosmic 2x4 up inside the head, to say, listen, incidentally, I'd been studying all the stuff that we're talking about for years. I just wasn't following it. And so the cosmic 2x4 said, listen, you studied all this stuff. Now stop studying and start living it. Start experiencing it. So it's, then you start learning about flow. You start learning that, the consciousness is our experience. It's, I may say something that's not kosher one day and learn from it and grow from it, but that's all a part of who I am. And I may make a rash decision, not be grounded, and get lost in the middle of my decisions, but that's all a part of the experience.
It is.
And you grow from it. So, we get caught up because we're trying to limit ourselves. So. Right.
It's funny you should use that term. I think, Leah, the first time I ever talked to you, I said, I'm getting hit upside the head with a 2x4 every minute of every day, and the only thing I'm getting is a headache. And I know there's something more here.
Yes.
And do you remember that?
I do.
And Leah
and
helped me figure out that
following your soul
purpose.
Yep.
I was stuck.
Yep.
But I knew enough. I mean, I was stuck and knew it and sought out, I reached out for help in getting unstuck. And Leo was right there. I remember how stuck I was?
I do. So you started writing, Hilary.
I did. I started writing.
And also, not your body. Remember, it's your higher self. That's the part of your soul that is real. And we know that there's more through our own intuitive guidance. There's more than just this physical, quote-unquote, reality.
Oh, absolutely.
We have our 5 physical senses, but we have a 6th sense. We still have all the 5 senses that are heightened at the soul level. Thus, through meditation, again, we are able to realize there is way more to me than the physical body, which is limited. In my higher reality, I am unlimited.
Right. That there's a place of inner strength.
Yes.
And that's our higher self. And
I think too, the walking meditation is listening to guidance, soul talk.
Yeah. Well, have you found too that the world is talking to you at all times? Like if you really pay attention, it's the soul talk, it's the walking meditation. The tiny little things will look up, and it's like your soul talking to you. That'll be coming in the form of a movie, or the person at the gas station that took your credit card, or they just said something. I've even looked at them and said, "What did you say?" And they repeat back, and it wasn't what they said. It was what I heard.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah.
That happens to me consistently. So.
Does it really? It's funny. Yeah, I have.
That's right. Yeah.
I have that little. Mine has a name, and I just named it. I mean, it didn't always have a name, but this little entity that darts around above my head that I call Tink in the book. She's always been there, and she's delightful, the most delightful entity I know. I just have so much fun, and I find myself talking to her, and I mean, I had somebody come down my driveway 2 days ago and say, Hilary, you're really talking to yourself pretty loudly today. And I said, this is an important conversation. And they're kind of joking, but they're also looking around to make sure that is there somebody else here? No, there isn't somebody else here. Yeah, she really is talking to herself. Well, I'm not talking to myself. I just sometimes don't get the line of what's inside, things that are, I say to myself, inside my head versus things that I say out loud when I really intend, I guess, to say them inside my head. So.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because you're just having a conversation with your best friend.
That's right.
So, very, very cool.
I think that's really interesting, Jeremy. It's so important that we be our own best friend.
Yes. Yep. And that thing, it's interesting you talk about because we were talking about body image and all this stuff, all the physical three-dimensional, whatever we want to refer to it as, this physical life. And, most people out there are looking for that person to complete them. And what we're talking about here is that the completion starts with you.
Absolutely.
I had a friend of mine years ago. We were just driving down the road, and she looks at me and she says, "It's an inside job, Jeremy. It's an inside job." And I couldn't stop laughing because we think of inside job as something totally different, in our world. But
right.
It's true. It starts inside of you. When you fix this inside of you, you change the essence of who you are. And you even mentioned that after you died, you changed. And,
I did, yeah.
Is that just about the part of you that was still on the other side with your angel, or is it because you changed how you viewed the world?
Both. I changed how I viewed the world. I cherish being on the earth right now. This is where I'm supposed to be. I discovered that I was told that I have things to teach and there are lessons I have to learn, and it's become a huge adventure ever since then, and that was a very long time ago. And frankly, I am so glad that I died. I like who I am today. I like how I think. I like the way I live my life. And I would not be the same person had that not happened. I came back with a different view of things, a place of my daily life just goes on from a place of inner strength, and I guess that was planted in my higher self and my consciousness perhaps before I was born, but certainly it was amplified after my death. And obviously I was a drug addict too. And people thought I was trying to kill myself. People thought this, people thought that. But I was just having too much fun, and I'm lucky. I'm very, very blessed to be here, to still be here, to have come back. A lot of people don't get that second chance. I was told that with the kind of brain injury and neurological damage that was done to my body from hypoxic encephalopathy, which really just means you die from not breathing. You don't get enough oxygen to your brain. That I was supposed to be paralyzed for the rest of my life, or vegetable, or both of the above, and I couldn't let that happen. I had things to do. Yeah. So I just fought with every fiber of my being, because they had, those doctors had placed me in a box of we give up on her. This is in 1972, and so I had probably the first CAT scan that was ever done on the face of the continent. They weren't very sophisticated, and I was to be given up on, and
I didn't accept that. So I was causing trouble even while I was paralyzed. But only because I knew that I had this. I mean, I didn't know. I saw this. My guardian angel, and I saw this little entity, this little pink entity, and they were there with me, and they were guiding me back. They made me come back because I wasn't finished yet. And that's okay. I mean, I argued. I remember very vividly arguing. I don't want to. Don't make me go back. But they said I had things to do.
Yep.
The experiences that I had while I was gone, nobody will ever convince me. You know, people have said that, well, those were dreams, those were this, those were that. No, though that was reality, and that reality that remains more vivid to me than any other time period in the rest of my life. I can remember every second of what happened, of what it felt like. I can go back there if I want to. I just need to close my eyes and go.
Right.
I think that's a blessing.
That's not, that's interesting because a lot of people that have what we would consider to be the NDEs or near-death experiences, they can't necessarily do that. And, they can't necessarily go back to that place, and so that's actually, I talked with a lot of them. I know maybe one or two out that can, but most of them, they had the experience and now they're just back here. And so it's,
Well, it used to be, it used to be very easy during the first year after they told me to blink twice if I understood them, and so I blinked. I didn't know what it meant. It had no significance to me whatsoever. But during that first year, I was still struggling to live there in that other place. I was resisting coming back spiritually. I mean, I was working very hard to come back physically, but spiritually, I kept trying because I could just think people away. When I was gone, if somebody, say a doctor, got in my space and was asking me too many questions, I would just think them away and they'd be gone. They would no longer be a part of my consciousness. And that was a pretty handy tool. I sort of liked that. And that has, I've tried consciously because I liked that. I liked that existence so much. I have clung to as much of it as I can. And it's fun. I can't think people away anymore, but I can put my headphones on and go away.
Well, and then we make the choice whether they need to be there or not, too. So I think that's, I don't know if you've experienced that more empowerment in your life, which I think is, since your experience, have you felt more empowered in your life where you have?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
I feel. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's kind of what you're touching. You've already touched on this a lot because you've obviously gone through a lot, not even just from this experience, but throughout life. So with major health issues and stuff like that. So something in you, whether it be your personality or not, I think it's more your soul or all of you, that's kept you going. There's something that made you get back in the saddle again and not just give up. So could you maybe share that with? You mentioned that you had a mission to do, or you had something to do here, but there's something.
I also have faith, and faith is a word that I don't hear thrown around very often, but I've always been really rather independent, and I take care of myself. And I'm a survivor. I've never thought in any other way. I'm confident from a place inside me that I can go on. I need to just, if when something happens, I had breast cancer, I have this, I have that, something happens, I deal with it and move on. And I don't necessarily make a choice to do that. It's just me. It's just how I live. You know, I have a definition of motivation as being the desire to get from where we are now to where we want to be. So that's pretty simple. Mm-hmm. That's pretty simple. If we can look at where we want to be, then we figure out how to get there. That means we're motivated. That means we're going to move forward, and that means that we're going to move past whatever the obstacle is that happens to be in our way. Mm-hmm. And I just picture myself past whatever it is that's bothering me, being paralyzed. I pictured myself not being paralyzed. It never occurred to me to stay paralyzed. Never, not for an instant. So if I don't let that become a part of my reality, then it doesn't. And it never did. Yeah. So I guess does that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Kind of.
It's really it's about how you feel about your self-attitude, how you perceive yourself. It's your whatever paradigm you want to refer to it as, how you see the world. You don't see yourself as paralyzed, so therefore, you
mm-hmm.
don't get wrapped up in that whatever drama or whatever you want to refer to it as. It's not
right,
an obstacle
right.
for you.
Right. And I think that looking back on things, I'd rather see past, say, the paralysis or past the breast cancer. And looking back on things, I think, is a good thing to do, but only to look over our shoulders to see the lesson. What was the lesson in that? And I think that some people get stuck living in a box that they could call my past. And there are ways to move through that. I've just never been one of those people. I mean, I choose to look at the future and to look at the present. But what's happened has happened. I've learned from each and everything that's happened. I'm grateful for everything that's happened. And now it's time to move on.
Yeah. One of the things I find interesting about what you're saying here is that, we often, when we work with people or talk to people, and I know you worked in the mental health industry field as well and stuff like that. But when
mm-hmm.
I work on a spiritual level or on a coaching level, I find a lot of people are out there. They're saying, I don't want to do that because that's too hard, or I don't want to do that because
mm-hmm.
I don't want to be around that person because they're negative, or the energy over there is bad, or I just want to do. And they're literally boxing themselves into this
mm-hmm.
box. I don't want to talk to
right.
that person because they're too negative or whatever, and all those things are obstacles. They're things, and or they're actually opportunities, to really experience. And I think that, you've had a really full life. When somebody reads your book, you've lived in Miami Beach, you've been, around. Even the experience of drugs, some people would cringe, but that was an experience of life. And
I was a heroin addict. It was heroin's, it made me feel good. And, being a drug, I have lived a very full life. I've been very busy.
Yeah.
But,
and you didn't live without
limitations. What?
You didn't live without limitations. Oh, I was saying you didn't live without you didn't live with limitations. So,
that's right.
No.
Very cool.
I'm very uncomfortable in with categories. And I don't know. I don't fit into any of them.
Right.
No, I have lived a very full life, and I never, for one moment, considered myself a victim. I don't feel like a victim. We've all been through rough times. We've all had illnesses or trauma or some kind of abuse. We've all, that's part of life. Those things are all part of life. what we do with them and how we deal with them, that's up to us. And I feel that all of the things that happened, my being a drug addict, my South Beach before it was whatever ungodly thing it is now. I mean, South Beach, I spent 6 years of my life surfing and using drugs there, and I had a full career working primarily with schizophrenics, which I loved getting up every morning. I loved going to work. I just loved my work. It was fascinating. That's a blessing in itself, to have a career that you wake up every morning and, oh boy, I get to go to work. It was great. And they're all part, all of that has been part of my journey. And I think life is relentless. It doesn't stop. It'll all, there's always going to be more challenges. There are always going to be more choices that we have to make. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Where do we want to live? All those things. And whatever we decide in the moment, we will learn from, whether it turns out to be good or not. The quote-unquote right choice. There is no such thing.
Yeah. I think we can be, what you're saying here is that we could get caught up in the wanting to make the right choice, and then we never make a choice, or we're choosing to not move.
Leah, is that what I'm saying?
Yes. It's just a choice. It's just a choice.
At least my understanding.
Yes,
I know.
We just choose, and then we will have to deal with the repercussion if it's a choice that is negative for our experience, but that's how we learn.
It is how we learn.
Life is a series of lessons. It's funny, because you live in Washington, this might be interesting. There's a little fish company in Seattle that I used to teach a class based on in corporate America called the Pike Place Fish Company.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course.
There's a book called Fish, I'm sure you've heard of, and I used to teach a class called Fish in corporate America. And one of the topics I actually brought in additionally onto the class was that animals play 90% of the time, and 10% of the 90% of the time they take naps, and 10% of the time they play. And play for them to learn. So my dogs will get a little bit aggressive with my human side. Goes, oh no, don't hurt each other, but sometimes they do hurt each other, and they learn that hurts. And that's through their play. Well, human beings are mammals, and so we but the difference is we try to avoid our play. So,
yes.
I think that my greatest joy in being with my dog and is that I do play. I play a lot, and because I choose to sort of isolate myself, or I could be. Let's say I'm very discerning about with whom I spend my time. I just go around playing with him, and we play. We go and hide behind the trees, and I hide from him, and he hides from me, and we go kayaking, and he plays man overboard. He jumps over, and then it's like, save me, save me, save me. I have to pick him up out of the lake and put him soaking wet on top of me. We go out and discover new islands, that really aren't new, but we say they're new. And there's this one I live on Lake Whatcom in Bellingham, and there's this little piece of land that is actually owned by a camp, but I pretend like it's not. And we kayak out there. The first time we went out there, he wears a little red bandana around his neck, and I tore a piece off. I got a stick, and I planted a flag, and I said, okay, I hereby claim this as Alf Island. And so now, I mean, everybody around says, "Oh yeah, you're going to Alf Island. You're not supposed to play out there. That belongs to the camp." Well, I don't know that. It's Alf Island in my mind. I believe that. And play is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. And like you said, I mean, why do dogs know how to play so much better than humans?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or other animals? You know, I think a lot of us have forgotten how to play. Where's that child?
Yeah.
My child is alive and well.
And that's good, because that's interwoven in every spiritual text. Be childlike, you know, and be childlike, you know, and it's pretty deep out there. I want to add, kind of wrap up here, because believe it or not, we're at about 4 minutes.
Okay.
For you, everybody that's listening, the book, Hilary's book is Surrealistic Trials: Surviving My Life After Death. And I want to read something here in the first part of it. It's just before the preface of the book, and it's a picture of her and her daughter. It says, "The Eternal Womb, 2012, by my daughter." Oh, this picture by your daughter, Misty Dawn, who was born filled with infinite wisdom. But there's a quote here that just grabbed me, and says, "The essence of all that it is transcends time and space. This photograph is a reflection of how I live my life. The spirit renews itself in part through the physical source of life. That home of warmth, safety, and love, where the soul is free to dance gracefully, agelessly, lovingly through the universe without limits." So it kind of goes along with that play and childlike and just enjoying ourselves. So I thought that was appropriate to kind of.
Thanks. Yeah, that is how I live, and writing. You know, that's how I write. The book is. You know, I think there's a lot of lessons and a lot of playfulness in there.
Very cool.
And the website, if anybody wants to look some more at the book or talk to me, is surrealistictrials.com. And I have trying to make a space on there at work. It's still working on it to have conversations. I'm open to. I like talking about spirituality, so I'm there.
Perfect. Well, I am been blessed and honored to have you both on the show, Leah.
Oh.
I'm sorry we didn't engage you as much, but I know that your energy was there. I could feel you, and
I sure could.
Well, we're blessed to be on the show, Jeremy. Thank you for being.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Jeremy.
Welcome, and I'm sure there will be future times that we'll discuss and have a wonderful conversation. So
I look forward to that.
So until then, many blessings, and thank you for coming on. And for everybody that listened, thank you for listening to Soul Talk. And everybody have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too.
Bye. Thank you.